The vast ocean covers a major portion of our planet, and we go our entire lives living on land not knowing what untold mysteries are hidden away deep in the sea. The few adventurous souls who brave the murky depths by undertaking the deep-sea expeditions are the only few people who know the real story of this underwater realm. Some discover shipwrecks from centuries ago, some come across mysterious sea creatures never been seen before, and some are lucky enough to stumble upon long-lost treasures. Regardless of what the discovery might be, there is a certain element of uncertainty and danger when you venture into the watery unknown. Here are the most mysterious things that nearly stop divers' hearts, and you need to see them to believe them. Skeletons in the lake. We've probably found the place with the largest number of scary underwater objects in the world. It's Lake Mead in Arizona. Visibility here rarely exceeds 3 or 4 meters, so if the guide forgot to warn you, we're sure you'll be frightened to death. Imagine that you're swimming and suddenly you see this, a skeleton in a cage and 2 of its guards, one of them with a gun. The authorities here have known for a long time that the skeletons are fake. The divers installed them for fun. Apart from the 3 skeletons, you can also find floating heads and even hands sticking out at the bottom of the lake. Would you still dive down here knowing they're fakes? Gold treasure. Sometimes diving feels like winning the lottery. That must have been the feeling for Zika Feyer and his team when they stumbled across a 2,000 gold coin treasure, the largest ever found in the region of Caesarea, Israel. Interestingly, Zvika had scuba dived in the area a lot of times before with no clue of the treasure that waited to be discovered. First, he saw a glimmer in the sand of the ocean floor, which had just been stirred up by the previous night's violent storm. He expected to find a discarded sweet wrapper, like a chocolate coin, but instead he found a real Arabic gold coin. Sweeping more and more sand aside, Zvika found another coin, and then another, and another, until he realized what he stumbled upon. Together with the Israeli Antiquities Authority, the divers recovered an entire long-lost treasure of 24-karat gold. It was later revealed that one single coin would cover a 1-month salary for a military soldier, so the entire treasure could have been used to hire a 2,000-soldier army for a month. The Neptune Memorial Reef. This place gives the phrase burial at sea a whole new meaning. The Neptune Memorial Reef was created for those who wish to spend their eternity under the sea. Created back in 2007 by a Florida artist by the name of Kim Brandel, the Neptune Memorial was built in sponsorship with the Neptune Society, which is one of the largest providers of cremation services in the United States. It's located 3 miles from the coast of Biscayne, Miami, at a depth of 40 feet from the surface of the sea. If the idea of being cremated and buried in the realm of Neptune sounds inviting to you, then this place might be what you're looking for. They do this by turning the cremated remains into concrete memorials which are placed at this site for eternity. Divers of the family of the deceased can come and visit their loved ones for however long they please. If you wish to have your remains buried at the Neptune Memorial Reef, it can set you back around $2,600 for the standard placement of the cremated remains, and upwards of $4,000 for both cremation and the placement of remains. It's a hefty price for an admission into this watery grave. Captive dugongs. Dugongs are plump and goofy sea animals, and they're relatives of manatees. They make you go, "Aww," every time you see them. But when Delon Lim and his co-divers were swimming in the depths of the sea in the remote island of Kokoya in Indonesia, they couldn't believe what they saw. A mother and calf dugong were held captive against their will, tied to a rope in a cage. Judging by the scars and rope marks, they'd been held captive not for weeks, but for several months. The divers immediately jumped the gun to make things right, and they found out a local fisherman was doing this heinous crime for just a few bucks from the tourists. The divers tried to convince the fisherman to release the creatures because they are a protected species and are also vulnerable to extinction. The fisherman agreed to do so, but later it turned out to be nothing but false words. So Lim and the other divers posted the video of the poor dugongs on social media, and the rest is history, because the animal rescue officials set them free for good. In this cruel little world, we need more people like Lim to save the unfortunate sea creatures. So, kudos to you, Lim. Giant Anaconda. Some dive in the hope of discovering archaeological treasures. Others, however, have more of an adrenaline-triggered wish to dive with sharks. The second category includes diver Bartolomeo Bove, a professional underwater videographer and shark diver. But coming face-to-face with the largest snake in the world was a special experience even for risk-taker Bove. And hear this, on purpose too. It appears there's a specific place, the Formosa River in Brazil, where people go to swim with the anacondas. Normally, anacondas prefer murky waters, but for some reason they also thrive in the crystal clear waters of this river, making it the perfect place to photograph the magnificent snake. The specimen found by Beauvais and his partner was particularly stunning, a 23-foot-long female of nearly 200 pounds. As it turns out, the female was actually curious and friendly, getting close to the divers and inspecting the camera before swimming away. Beauvais described the experience as unbelievable, adding, "No words can do justice to the sensations that I was really feeling." SS Montgomery. Shipwrecks are often found in the depths of the sea, but sometimes they can even be seen on the coasts of countries or in shallow waters. The SS Montgomery is one shipwreck that's been visible to the residents of the small town of Sheerness, UK, ever since it sank during World War II. The sight of the rusting mast might add character to the area, but it also serves as a reminder of what's hiding under the water. At the time of its sinking, the SS Montgomery was carrying 1,400 tons of high-powered explosives, and they're still around the site of the shipwreck. If it accidentally goes off, it can trigger a 30 to 40-foot tsunami wave which can come crashing through the Thames River into London. Since the wreckage contains so many explosives, it's made any effort of recovering the wreckage impossible. The SS Montgomery will continue to be a permanent part of the scenery of this English town for a very long time. The Order Cave. Cave exploration is one of the favourite activities for many divers. It takes places like the Order Cave to hook divers in an endless appreciation of the ocean. Deep in the bedrock underneath the Ural Mountains in Russia, this is one of the longest underwater caves we've ever discovered. But not only does it offer hours and hours of exploration, the visibility here is one of the most pristine on the planet, matching the sinkholes of the Yucatan Peninsula. Don't worry though, you won't find any anacondas swimming around in these waters. It seems that the clarity is given by the gypsum rock, which filters the water. It's also incredibly cold at only 4 degrees Celsius, making it suitable for dry suit diving only. Ancient silver. If there's one thing that motivates a lot of divers to venture the depths of the ocean, it's long-lost treasures or artifacts. While coming across something like this is incredibly rare and often dangerous, the few lucky ones who make such a discovery will forever have their life changed. If there's a textbook example of an underwater treasure, it's probably the treasure found inside the SS Gersopper. During World War II, the SS Gersopper was used as a British cargo ship, but was sunk by a torpedo fired from a German U-boat. In this incident, only one of the 85 crew members survived, while the rest of the ship sank an astonishing 15,000 feet and stayed there for the past 70 years. The ship was known to contain 48 tons of pure silver at the time of its sinking, so the British government contracted a US-based deep-sea exploration company known as the Odyssey Marine Exploration to recover this long-lost loot. The expedition was a success, and the team was able to recover all of the 48 tons of silver. And the best part is the exploration team got to keep 80% of the treasure, which fattened their wallets by an incredible $30 million. What a payday. Scary ship. Fancy yourself a sunken treasure? Well, deep-sea explorers found a ship full of gold and silver coins at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. But it doesn't end there. The fact is that in addition to the jewels, the bodies of more than 800 sailors are inside the ship Mars, so the treasure is literally protected by skeletons. By the way, the wooden ship sank as a result of the explosion of the cannons on the deck in 1564, but it's still in really good shape. Surprising, right? According to legend, a ghost rose from among the depths of the sea to protect the ship from being detected, but a few years ago scientists found it. Just imagine all the treasure that was locked away for close to 500 years. The Lion City. The Lion City came under the attention of officials in China after realizing that 50 years had passed since the city sunk and left it completely intact. The crazy story about the Lion City is that it was submerged on purpose when the Chinese government decided to build a new hydroelectric power station and they required a lake. I bet you didn't hear that before. Today, the city lies undisturbed in the Quandao Lake with its houses, paved roads, arches and temples like it was kept in a time capsule. The site of the once opulent city is now open to local tourists who want to dive around and wonder at the historical treasures. While it's a shame that such a city had to be sunk, one can at least take solace in the fact that they can now visit an underwater museum. Nepolis. Tsunamis have destroyed many ancient civilizations, and one such example is Nepolis, which is in modern-day Turkey. Archaeologists discovered a series of underwater ruins back in 2010, and it turns out it was an ancient Roman city completely wiped out by a tsunami around 1700 years ago. The ruin stretched out an impressive half a mile in length and served as one of the most important discoveries of this region. Even though the city was swallowed by the sea around 365 AD, a lot of the artifacts discovered in the area were in excellent condition. Nepolis is believed to have been founded in the 5th century BC and has changed ownership between various factions over the centuries. This is probably just one of the many ancient cities which was swallowed by the ocean, including the fabled city of Atlantis. Legos. Not just the bottom of the ocean is terrifying or interesting, but sometimes a few things pop up out of the ocean and make their way onto shore. This time it's not any living creature, but something that's non-living, yet very famous. One fine day in October 2011 in Florida, an 8-foot-tall 100-pound fiberglass Lego man was found floating on the Siesta Key beach in the south of Sarasota. The front of the Lego man had a green torso which read, "No more real than you are," and on the back, number 8 was etched with the words, "Ego Leonard." But this is not the first time that such large Legos were randomly found floating on the surface, where it's been observed that earlier these Legos were found floating in the beaches of not only England but also the Netherlands. In 2012 and 2014, the Legos had been seen floating yet again in the beaches of California and Japan. Pretty intriguing, isn't it? Which is the most strange or terrifying creature or thing you've witnessed in the ocean or the surface? Let us know in the comments below. Skeleton Lake. There are some days when you find lost valuables like jewelry in lakes, but then there are those days when you find skeletons emerging from a lake which haunt you for the rest of your life. No, this is not just a figment of imagination, but an actual occurrence which took place in the Rupkund Lake in the Uttarakhand state of India. This shallow 2-meter deep lake revealed jaw-dropping 200 skeletons, where the bodies still had flesh, leather clothing and jewelry on them. After analysing, it was found that the skeletons were 1,200 years old. But why weren't the skeletons found earlier, you might think? Well, it's observed for at least 11 months the lake is totally covered in a thick blanket of ice and snow. So, when the skeletons were discovered, scientists were totally baffled with the view. So, next time when you want to spend a jovial time near the lake, take it with a grain of salt because you never know as to what can be found. Brine of Death. You never know what you might find in the sea floor. It could be a dangerous unknown creature, or something like the Brine of Death. Brine is an underwater phenomenon that's also called the ice finger of death. It destroys and freezes everything that comes in its way. It's not man-made, but totally natural, where it forms only under warm temperatures in the ocean floor when compared to the surface. This is rare, but not quite in the polar regions. Since the brine is denser than water, it sinks to the bottom of the ocean, where the hollow tube of ice is created, and that is a brinicle. It resembles an icy water tornado and takes in everything under its spinning abode. So, if you happen to see brine, you know what to do. Alien in Russia. Imagine you finally decide to practice diving. You're a little nervous at first and it's difficult to navigate in the muddy water, and suddenly you're staring head-on with a huge xenomorph. Most likely you'll be swimming out at a frenzied speed while hoping to survive this ordeal. However, divers in the Russian city of Anapa decided that a 3-meter copy of an alien at the bottom of the Black Sea is a great way to entertain tourists. The divers created it themselves using thousands of details and installed it with a crane. According to them, the sculpture of the alien monster will help tourists remember the visit for life, and we think that it's definitely going to be the case. Giant Crucifix. Lake Michigan has a reputation of its own, where it's renowned to be one of the 5 Great Lakes of North America. It's also renowned to be the only lake that's located totally in the United States. For the Chicago millennial, it's a popular beach destination, but there's more to this lake than just young kids having a jovial time. In the bottom of the lake lies a humongous crucifix, which literally weighs a whopping 1,800 pounds. No, the crucifix is not an ancient monument, but was deliberately placed in the bottom of the lake in 1962 by the officials as a memorial to those that lost their lives in the water. It was initially dropped 65 feet deep in the bay, but later in 1986 it was moved to its new spot, that is, just 20 feet under the surface. Presently, it's become a popular tourist destination where in 2015, more than 2,000 visitors walked by on the frozen bay in order to see the giant crucifix frozen in time. The longest sea animal ever. On April 6, 2020, the deep sea in Ningaloo Coast in Australia unveiled an approximately 30 new marine species. But wait, that's not all. The researchers found out the longest animal ever actually lived beneath us in the ocean's depths. This thread-like creature is not a new species, since scientists already know it as siphonophore, a little sea predator made up of identical creatures called zooids. They combine together as one large string in the ocean where they can reach a whopping length of 130 feet. But this siphonophore is unlike any other because its outer rings spread out to 154 feet long, and when combined, this creature's total length is more than 390 feet, making it the longest animal ever to swim in planet Earth. Mind-blowing, right? Slender Man Underwater. Remember Slender Man? It seems that everyone has forgotten about this creepy character, but most likely he's hiding in the waters of the Gulf of Thailand. Off the Thai island of Koh Tao, at least that's what divers familiar with the character might think, there's a sculpture at the bottom of the bay that looks just like the legendary villain. The installation was displayed in 2016 by artist Valérie Guttard. According to her idea, the bronze figures should remind us of the fragility of man and nature, but looking at the sculpture sure doesn't bring in that sentiment. Gnomes in the lake. Forget about giant octopuses, Cthulhu and megalodons. Simple objects at the bottom of the ocean look much creepier. Look at what a group of divers in Loch Fyne in Scotland have discovered at a depth of 30 meters. Garden gnomes. The appearance of one of them could be explained as an incredible coincidence, but where did this collection come from? Most of these figures have been underwater for years, but one figure looks new. Apparently the owner added it recently. Not far from this place there's another lake, Loch Ness, where the very famous Loch Ness Monster lives. Maybe Nessie has something to do with this. Jason Voorhees' underwater statue. As if horror flicks aren't full of enough things that go bump in the night, here's an underwater discovery that'll make scary movie fans extra terrified. In northern Minnesota, someone created a life-size statue of Jason Voorhees, one of Hollywood's most infamous killers, complete with his iconic hockey mask and machete, and dumped it into the bottom of Crystal Lake. It's been sitting there ever since, waiting to give unsuspecting divers a heart attack. The man behind the statue, Curtis Lahr, says the statue is planted 120 feet down in the lake. Adding to the creepiness, Lahr says the lake is an old iron ore pit. He also shot a video of the submerged nightmare he created in 2013 and uploaded it to YouTube, and since then it's been giving goosebumps to internet users and freaking out people who are already scared of going into the water. Even though Jason isn't real, imagine how you would have reacted upon stumbling upon it. You would have definitely wanted to strangle it for making your worst nightmares a reality. Monster fish. Our first dive will take us to Lake Neuchâtel in Switzerland. Its maximum depth is 152 meters. At first, the flashlights only illuminate the stones and algae. But what is this strange silhouette? It's a huge, toothed and scary fish that looks like a hybrid between a crazy shark and an anglerfish. Imagine seeing this creature through a foggy mask. Would you realize it's just a sculpture before you have a heart attack? Of course, local divers know this place very well and think it's a prop that was left here after being used for a movie. Luckily, it doesn't move, but the fish around it also have frozen strangely. Prop or not, this monstrosity is bound to scare off any unsuspecting divers. Crosses underwater. Never dive on La Palma unless you're willing to end up with white hair. This is what awaits you at a depth of 20 meters, 40 creepy crosses covered with algae. The story of this installation is worthy of a horror movie. In 1570, the Portuguese missionary Inácio de Azevedo sailed with 39 companions to the coast of La Palma, but never made it ashore. The ship was captured by pirates. Its commander treated the crew in a really cruel manner. He threw the people into the sea and watched them slowly sink. In 2000, a monument was erected to commemorate the victims. We hope they finally found some peace. Giant knife. And among other bizarre underwater discoveries in our list, we've got another one. A massive underwater knife that was supposedly found by a team of professional scuba divers back in 2014. Not much to explain about this mysterious image. We only see a large knife held by 3 divers in a place in the Earth's oceans. Ever since the image has been released by some anonymous source, it's been widely circulated across social network sites and scuba diving forums. And astonishingly, the divers holding this giant knife never made any public appearances to claim their credit on this fortuitous discovery. Anyhow, many considered it to be proof that before written history, perhaps tens of thousands of years ago, giants ruled the Earth, or more than likely, it's a prop that ended up somehow in the ocean. But who knows for sure? Could it be the proof of existence of giant races? Let us know in the comment section what you think. Shipwreck Survivor. One of the worst things that can happen to anyone on board a ship or a boat is experiencing a shipwreck. Modern vessels can combat most harsh conditions and even have emergency protocols to prevent such situations, but there are still times when Mother Nature shows its true might and overpowers the vessel. In most cases of maritime wreckage, the survival rate is very low, and any divers who are sent after the fact are mostly sent for recovering the bodies. But exceptions are there. For example, in this most unexpected case of a boat capsizing in the sea, one of the crew members managed to keep himself alive for 3 days. Harrison Okene, a chef on a tugboat with 12 crew members, didn't think he would be facing the worst 60 hours of his life when he sailed from the coast of Nigeria one fine day. After encountering a violent wave, the tugboat capsized and sank to an incredible 100 feet under the sea. Harrison managed to find a small air pocket in the back of the ship and managed to keep himself alive for 3 days. A team of divers who were sent with no hopes of recovering anyone alive were pleasantly surprised to find Harrison still alive and breathing, though shaken by the whole ordeal. Luckily, they brought an extra oxygen mask and managed to rescue him, and Harrison lived another day to tell his tale. This man is incredibly lucky. Giant trash pile. While the sea swallows a lot of valuable items through wrecks, it also collects a lot of trash that humankind produces on a daily basis. The sad reality is that although we might properly dispose our trash at our homes, a lot of it inevitably reaches the oceans. This has caused a massive negative impact to the marine ecosystems of the world. Richard Horner is a passionate diver from Britain who lives in Bali, Indonesia. He regularly dives with the local manta rays and other marine life and shows regular people a peek into the life underwater. But in 2018, he made a startling discovery. Off the coast of Indonesia, Horner discovered swathes of plastic pollution. Ever since then, he's been documenting this prevalent problem and hopes to encourage people to find a solution before more of our planet's oceans are forever poisoned and polluted for the marine life as well as for humans. Underwater sculpture. Swimsuits and snorkels are not usually considered appropriate attire for viewing works of art, but that's exactly what you need to gain a full appreciation of these sculptures, because they all lie beneath clear Caribbean waters. Designed by artist Jason DeCaris Taylor in 2006, the Granada Underwater Sculpture Park has been listed as one of National Geographic's 25 Wonders of the World. With currently over 75 of these installed underwater, the life-size sculptures range from whimsical figures such as a bicycle rider and a man sitting at a desk tapping away at a typewriter, to more poetic installations including the female figures of Grace Reef, who are at times hidden by the sand and then revealed again by the tides. The project aimed to build an artificial barrier where the coral and other marine life could migrate to and find a new home in an area that was highly devastated by Hurricane Ivan in 2004. More recently, 14 new sculptures have also been added to Granada's Underwater Sculpture Park in order to pay tribute to the nearly 2 million African slaves thrown into the sea during the transatlantic slave trade. Triple threat. Sometimes when I get that bad feeling, I'll lie in bed thinking about all the mistakes I've made in life. Like the time I puked at my prom date in senior high. Sorry, but for all my shortcomings, I've never made a mistake quite as emphatic as the MV Tricolor. This 620-foot vehicle carrier was travelling from Zeebrugge, Belgium to Southampton on December 14, 2002, transporting around 3,000 luxury automobiles, when it collided with another cargo ship, the Kariba. Supposedly, the crash was caused by an error involving a third ship, the MV Clary, which forced the two colliding ships to change course into each other. The Kariba wasn't damaged too badly and managed to make it back to port. I know what you're thinking, that looks pretty bad. But it's nothing compared to the Tricolor, which sank where it was struck and lay fully submerged in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Yikes. Now, crashing a 620-foot boat and losing $30 million worth of cars with it would have you feeling pretty silly. But do you know what would make you feel even sillier? Crashing into a ship that's already sunk. Twice. Yep, just 2 days after the crash, another cargo ship, the Nicola, sailed straight into the wreckage. The Nicola got stuck on top of the ship and had to wait for the tide to rise before it could free itself. Then, on January 1st, yet another ship, the Vicky, sailed into the MV Tricolor. The crew hadn't paid attention to the warnings by the French Navy and consequently also got stuck on top. Except the Vicky had 77,000 tons of highly flammable oil on board. Uh-oh. Miraculously, they managed to free themselves without a hitch and none of the oil spilled out. Phew! But it could have been a heck of a lot worse. As if that wasn't already a ridiculous enough scenario, on January 22nd, a salvage tugboat coming to aid the Tricolour accidentally hit a safety valve on the ship, causing a huge oil spill. Man, who did they put in charge of this? This is one of the most incompetent operations I've ever heard of. In just over a month, 3 ships had collided with it, and the boat that was meant to be helping just dumped oil everywhere. What a catastrophe. But you want to know how much this cost, right? Well, if $38 million in lost cargo wasn't bad enough, there was also the cost incurred from a 2-year salvage operation to remove the ship, the damage done to 3 other ships, cleaning up the oil spill, and the delays it caused to the shipping route too. The framework for this salvage operation was never made public. Let's face it, they were embarrassed enough already, so we don't know the exact figure. But, considering everything, I wouldn't be surprised if this went deep into the hundreds of millions. Now I understand why my mom always says, look both ways before crossing a busy shipping lane. Which of these underwater sites are you dying to explore? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please let me know by clicking the like button. Do share, write a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch up my next video.